like what we're seeing out of Osun State feels like something out of a Nollywood movie. It feels like every day there's a new update, there's a twist and turn. You know, just when we thought the state was returning, things were returning to normalcy and we're counting down to elections on Saturday, there's a new update. Will the elections hold in Osun State on Saturday?
Well, it's dicey to say the election would hold because as at this minute, the position of the law, except if interpretation is further sought and it's on the contrary, is that there is no vacancy at the local government. So if that is not turned or there's no interpretation of the existing judgment to prove otherwise, what that simply means that anyone that goes into election on Saturday is acting in subjugation of the court, which is itself is criminal. So what I hope will be done between now and maybe tomorrow, which seems to be the only available day, would be for the PDP to approach the same appeal court that seems to have given the controversial judgment, seek for an interpretation of the judgment, and let's get all this drama done with. Otherwise, going to election on Saturday will be seen as an affront to the court. And come to think of it, if you want to hold election, you will need security. You will need the civil defense corps, you will need the police, you will need the DSS and all of that. And if they are of the opinion, by whatever directive has been given to them by the police headquarters, that the judgment is in favor of the APC, and they're opposing that, which security operative do you want to use in election? You don't go to election with open hands without security for the life and properties of the people and, of course, the electoral material. So except something happen between today and tomorrow, I don't see the possibility of an election holding on Saturday.
We had a lawyer yesterday, just to quickly add, and we've seen various interpretations of that court judgment. And the lawyer that we had on the show yesterday, Festus Ologun, had spoken to the fact that there was no express statement regarding the potential maybe reinstatement of the local government chairmen who had to vacate their seats. So I mean, you're saying that from your statement, it seems that you have a different interpretation of that.
No, I don't. Look, the reason why we have this avoidable crisis in our hand is because two people are laying claim to different interpretation of the same judgment. So if the APC is claiming that the interpretation of the judgment for them means that the local government people, chairmen and councillors are being reinstated, and the PDP is saying there's no clarity, there is no definite instruction or definite declaration by the judgment that the ex-local government chairman have been reinstated, the right thing to do would be to approach the same court. It's the provision of the law. Approach the same appeal court and seek for interpretation. The judges that sat on that case have not disappeared into thin air. They are still existing. So approach the court, seek for interpretation of the case, and let there be an explicit declaration of what.
And this is a very commonsensical thing to do. Why haven't they done it?
Well, you know, politicians most of the time allow emotions, allow political reasoning to overrule their common sense, with due apology to all politicians, because they will see what is right to be done and choose otherwise. The crisis that ensued in Osun on Monday was a very avoidable one. And as at the last count, 6 lives have been lost and a lot of people lying.
Very unfortunate.
So why should we have to get to that point when whatever has brought about the crisis is judicial, and you could approach the judiciary for further clarification of what two people are claiming to be what is and what is not.
So on who does the burden rest? Because in this case, Osun State, of course, has a PDP-led administration. Sure. APC tried to overtake these seats, tried to take over the secretariat that has now led to the loss of lives. Days before, Governor Ademola Adeleke had warned via X that their plans to, conduct their plans for violence to erupt in the state, and had said that they should hold Oyetola responsible. So on who does the burden lie in terms of going back to the court to ask for representation, and the way that and manner in which they have handled it? Is that the way that they should have handled it?
I've said it again and again. That was not the way to handle it. And the unnecessary outcry of the governor on Monday was not the thing that is needed. Look,
no, he's chief security officer of the state.
He's the chief security officer of the state, but he does not control the security architecture. The police, the civil defense, the DSS are under the control of the federal government. They don't take instruction from the governor. And ordinarily, if a judgment is given in your favor, what you do is to approach the register of the court. The register of the court is supposed to be the one to communicate to security agencies who, in turn, enforce the judgment. So for whatever reason, if the police hierarchy, the DSS hierarchy, and the civil defense hierarchy have been given an order by maybe the AGF or whoever, that by the interpretation of that judgment, it is in the favor of the APC, and they should go and enforce the insertion of those people, there's nothing the PDP-led administration in the state can do. 1 million press conferences, 1 million press releases will not do it. So the responsibility of finding lasting solution to all of this lies at the door of the PDP. Look, the APC is taking an advantage, which anybody would do. If you seem to have something that you feel favors you, you want to run with it. So if another party feels it's not your right, it's now the choice and the responsibility of that other party to look for how to stop that legally, not by confrontation. So the onus of approaching the court for interpretation as it stands this morning is at the door of the PDP.
Now, yesterday, as the local government chairman, APC local government chairman, resumed work at their secretariat, there were reports that they were accompanied by men of the Nigerian police. What do you interpret this? Does this mean there's bias, a sort of bias from the central government, the APC-led government in Abuja, to provide some sort of cover for them? Unfortunately,
that's another narrative that the PDP have sold, which for me does not make sense, except for people who have political alignment. Look, the police, by every sense of responsibility, is not supposed to be biased, either for the ruling party or for the opposition. It's an institution meant to uphold the law. And I did say the other time that normally the right thing to do is that when such judgment is given, you approach the registrar of the court, who in turn communicates security forces. Nobody has been able to tell us if that has been done. So perhaps the Nigerian police force has the instruction of the court that what the APC is claiming is the true position. Nobody has been able to clarify that or give a claim otherwise. So if the police force has an instruction that the interpretation of that judgment is in the favor of the APC, they are duty bound to execute.
Are you saying that they had, are you clearly saying that they had an instruction?
I'm not saying that they had
an instruction. I don't want that to clarify that.
Nobody has been able to tell us if they had such instruction or they don't. But ordinarily, the court is, through the register of the court, is to inform the security apparatus to enforce judgment. Maybe that instruction has been given. Nobody has been able to tell us. So if you feel the police is acting otherwise, I don't feel
I mean, if their instruction has been given, it will be public knowledge.
It might not be public. How many enforcement of court judgments has the police made public? This is Nigeria.
Okay. So how do you see this? I mean, now that it's come to a head and both sides are not backing down, plus there's a potential for elections on Saturday. If the courts don't interfere and interpret between today and Saturday, how do you...
Or if they don't apply, because the court is not going to interpret.
Exactly. The court will not do what you don't have.
Gives what you ask for.
So if there is no interpretation in court now of the subsisting judgment which favors the APC, going into election on Saturday will be a subjudice of the court. And if at all that election holds, that means we'll be having 2 sets of elected chairmen. And that would definitely put Osun State into more problem. As far as the federal government is concerned, except there's a clarity in judgment, they will withhold funds accruable to the local government. Don't forget there's a judgment that says that funds should be directed and paid to the account of the local government. So the federal government might take that as an excuse to say that, look, we don't even know which one is authentic. You have 2 sets of elected local government chairmen. And for that reason, fund is withheld. Then what becomes of the fate of the ordinary citizens of Osun State who are depending on whatever comes to the local? They are contractors. There are people, millions of people in Osun State that does not even know what Osogbo looks like, which is the state capital. The best thing that could ever happen to them is the local government, which they are the closest to. So if eventually you allow this political issue to further, it's going to be at the detriment of the ordinary citizens that the incumbent have sworn to protect and to provide for.
Well, these citizens that the incumbent has sworn to protect and provide for, unfortunately, like you've mentioned, lives have been lost. You mentioned 6 lives.
The police says 6.
6 lives that have been lost. How do we, make up for those? I mean, nothing can be done to bring justice. Justice will mean them coming back. But the closest to justice would mean that those who are responsible for their deaths are behind bars. They're brought to face the law. So how well or how much faith do you have that those who are responsible for the death of these 6 people will be brought to justice?
Just like you rightly said, there's no justice that can be given to the dead. The best you can give is to give closure to the family of those that have lost the lost ones. And the only way to do that is to ensure that those who have been responsible for the avoidable mayhem in Osun State on Monday are brought to book. And in this case, this has nothing to do with politics. On both sides, there have been casualties. So it's not a matter of arrest APC people, leave people. On both sides, whoever has been identified and responsible for the mayhem which was avoidable, I keep saying, should be made to face the consequences of the law without any compromise. That's the only way the families of those who lost their life can have closure.
Now, comrade, given the luxury of hindsight, and they say, you know, we learn from history so as not to repeat the mistakes of history, knowing the way everything started, the genesis, October 2022, should the former governor, Oyetola, should he have gone ahead to hold local government elections in the dying days of his administration, knowing it could cause destabilization of the polity in Osun State, which we're still experiencing in 2025?
There are two things. There's a difference between, I want us to be very clear about the need and the process. The best time to do a thing is yesterday. The second best time is now. So whether election held after he left office or otherwise will have been immaterial.
He didn't give enough notice.
That is what I'm coming to. It's the process. Yes. It is the process of the election that there are issues with. So the fact that election held after he left office is immaterial. Election could even hold a day to the swearing in of the new government if the right process has been followed. So just like a lot of other people, I remember that the organization I represent, which was your mastermind, spoke about the process way back in 2022, that this process seems not tidy. So if there has been a problem with the process, I agree that the process of the election then might not have been the best. But the fact that it aired after he left office is immaterial because the election could hold anytime.
We haven't really heard much from the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy. Do you maybe know his position on the violence that's erupted in the state?
There's no way I can know his position. I'm not a politician. I'm not a member of his party. But if you ask me, this has nothing to do with him.
Why do you say that?
Look, he's the leader of the party in Osun State. He is the former governor. What is happening is between two political parties, the APC and the PDP. Don't forget that the National Secretary of the APC is also from Osun State. That's Bashiru, SRJ. So if there are political issues, I don't see why a minister should leave the duty and the responsibility of his office to come and get involved in local politics. So this is a battle, this is not a battle between Demola Adeleke and Isiaka Oyetola. It's a battle between the APC and the PDP. So for whatever reason, I don't see a reason why his name should be thrown forth, except for the fact that he's the leader of the party. What business does he have?
Now, members of the APC have called for a state of emergency in Osun State following the violence that erupted on Monday. Do you think they're overstretching it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's a call that is unpatriotic, if you ask me. We've had more terrible situations. We've had things that are worse than this in Edo in the days of Obaseki. We had it worse than this even up till now in River State. We've had similar situation in Oyo State, if you recall, when the incumbent governor was in his first term. And there was no reason for a state of emergency. These are purely judicial matters. They are not even too political as far as I'm concerned. So why should it lead to a call for a state of emergency? I think that's an unprofessional call and it's a call taken too far.
Okay.
All right. I mean, we, of course, would keep following with the updates in Osun State. We have 2 days to the potential elections.
That will happen.
Potential. Because
we hope to have you back soon because it's a fast developing
I think what we need to do is to then have a conversation with you and Festus Ogun, who seem to be on different sides of the interpretation of the law, and we can have a broader conversation about this. But of course, we'll wait for the elections to happen. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.